Hey guys, it's Charlene. Today we're going to make some fun nighttime and space themed cards. I have the brand new Simon's Space Adventure collection here from Spellbinders, as well as the awesome One Lights from Pearblossom Press. So we're going to be doing some fun light up elements on our cards today. Let's get started. I'm going to show you how to create two different backgrounds. The first one is going to be a space background, and then the second one is going to be a nighttime sky background. For the space background, I'm going to start with some black cardstock. I find it much easier to work with black cardstock for a space background because I don't have to add a ton of black ink onto the cardstock in order to get that space feel. I'm bringing in some blues and purples. This works really well with Distress Oxides. They are a hybrid ink, so they have pigment and dye ink in them. The pigment ink sits on top of the paper, so you could do this with other pigment inks as well, but the Distress Oxides in particular work really well. I'm going to start here with the blue. I'm using Blueprint Sketch, and I'm going to pick up some of the ink on my brush. I know this looks wild, but just trust the process. I'm going to create a couple of spots here and there on the cardstock, not too big. I'll blend them out just slightly. Really, the whole point here is to get some color onto the paper and layer it up. We'll do the blending later. Now I have two purples. This one is Seedless Preserves. It's a bit lighter and it's also more towards the red side of the color wheel. I think a lighter reddish purple and a cool dark purple work really well for the space theme. So I've brought in the Seedless Preserves, again, putting it here and there, just around where I feel good on the paper. It doesn't all have to be in one area. You could disperse it across the cardstock, or you could kind of clump it, which is what I'm doing. So I've got those three spots. I'm going to blend them out just a little bit into the blue. And then I will bring in my darker purple. For this, I'm using Villainous Potion, which if you've watched any of my Halloween videos, you know that I love this color. Again, I'm just picking up a small amount here on my brush, and I'm bringing it into the areas where I don't have already some color existing. Now with the darker colors, you'll notice that they don't show up quite as much on the black cardstock. So I do apply quite a bit more of the color. There are some other colors that would work really well for this technique too. So you could use teals, you could use other shades of blue, you could use even pinks I've seen in some space photos. So I like to go ahead and check those out on Google to get some ideas on what kind of space background I want. Now that I have enough color down, I'm going to bring in white pigment ink, and this is what makes this technique work. So I like to use a small brush. You can use a larger brush if you want to, but I like the flexibility of the small brush. And I'm just creating almost like little star clusters. You can imagine these to be little star galaxies far and away that are faded off into the background. Once I have all of the spots that I want, I'm bringing my brush and blending that white pigment ink out into the black cardstock and blending it into those other colors. To keep myself from getting ink on my fingers or fingerprints on my finished panel, I just put a piece of low-tack tape on my fingers on the hand that I'm holding the cardstock with. This is a really helpful tip on this type of technique or any other ones where you're working with Distress Oxide or pigment ink. You can see I've taken what's left on my brushes and now I am blending things out. Once things are somewhat blended, I'm going to bring back in some of the brightness of the color by bringing back in the blue and bringing back in the purples. And I'll just kind of keep working at this until I am happy with how it looks. The end goal here, you can see, is to sort of have a bokeh look to your cardstock. We have all those fun colors, the white spots, but it's all blended and faded into our dark black cardstock. And this is where the magic is really going to happen to give us that starry background. I have some shimmer mist here as well as some acrylic spray. I'm going to use the nozzle on each of these. So I've shaken them up really well, and then I'm going to bring in something else, a little tool here. You could use a pencil, whatever you have. This will give you smaller little dots. When you tap it against your nozzle, it's going to cause little tiny dots to go down onto your cardstock. The shimmer mist is water-based, so it's going to react with our Distress oxides, and we're going to get that lovely oxidized look. You can see I brought in my heat tool and dried it, and now we have these lovely little shimmery spots all over the cardstock. If you don't have a shimmer mist, you also could use some water mixed with some perfect pearls, or even just plain water, and you'll still get that fun oxidized result. Now I've got my white acrylic spray here. I'm going to shake it up really well and do the same thing that we did with the shimmer mist, just using the nozzle, and I'm going to use my little die pick here to tap the nozzle to get those smaller little flecks of white here and there. Once I'm happy with it, I'll let it dry. The acrylic spray does tend to pick up the oxide color, so it won't be a true white unless you seal your Distress oxides first, but that doesn't bother me at all. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. We have those blues and purples, the shimmery spots, as well as the white spots, and this is going to be perfect for our space themed card. Now for our night sky background, I'm going to use the exact same colors, the Seedless Preserves, Blueprint Sketch, and Villainous Potion. I have the Seedless Preserves here, and I'm going to put a layer of grass down at the bottom of my card, so I'm not too worried what happens at the bottom. I'll start with our pretty light purple here, and I'm going to create a nice horizon line. So I'm working the ink into my brush, making sure that I get it nice and in the bristles, and then I will lightly blend all the way across, creating that horizon line. Next, I'm moving into the Blueprint Sketch, so I'll ink that up, work it in my bristles, and bring it right along the same line, working it into the top of the Seedless Preserves. Now, I'm not worried about getting a ton of ink on here. I'm just worried about getting the whole thing covered with ink. Now I'll bring in the Villainous Potion, and this is going to come down from the top into my Blueprint Sketch, and then I'm also going to bring it in from around on the sides of the piece of cardstock. So now I'm going to repeat that process probably 2 times, and now I've built up all of that gorgeous color for the sky, and I'll do the exact same thing with the shimmer mist and the white acrylic spray. Now you can see the difference between the 2 panels. Look how different they look, but they're both absolutely gorgeous. For my nighttime sky background, I'm going to be working with the UFO Friend dies, and you can see we have all of the different pieces here to create our UFO spaceship. We have this cute little alien, as well as several different options for the top of the alien's head. And then we also have a planet here, Saturn, with the rings. So lots of fun stuff. For my card, I'm using the alien as well as the UFO spaceship. I did cut out 2 of his body because I want to show you something you can do. You can pop out the pieces in the top portion of the body and then glue it to another die cut of the body to have fun different colors coming through on the alien. This is not going to show up in my final card because this will be cut off because I'm going to put him inside my UFO, but I wanted to show you this. And here are the pieces. One die cuts out the top as well as little pom-poms for his antenna. Here are his cheeks as well as his mouthpiece that's going to go back behind the whole body. We'll pop out that little piece there. And then his eyeball is 2 different pieces, this little circle and then the black dot. For his party hat here, I went with pink and I cut out the little pom-pom in purple. There are a few other accessories you could use as well. Now I just need to assemble everything, so I'll start by putting together his little body. I added glue all the way to the back of the light green piece, and I'm going to layer it over the top of the dark green piece. Now I'll pop out his mouth, and I'll add a few dots of glue behind him around where the mouth is, and then back it with the small pink piece. So now it's going to look like the inside of his mouth is pink, super cute. For his cheeks, I'm just going to add a little tiny dot of glue. There's an embossed spot. You can see exactly where these are supposed to go. Then I can pick those up and place them. Same thing for his eye. I'm going to dot around that embossed area, and then I can pick up the white eye and place it right over there. And same thing for the little black dot inside of his eye. It goes right in the center, and you can see where you need to place your glue. For his antenna, those are optional, which I like that because you can make lots of different styles of aliens with this set, which is really fun. I could see a card with like 4 or 5 aliens on it. I added those pom-poms on the top of his antenna. I don't know what to call them. I'll call them pom-poms. Added glue to the back of his body, and this will line up right along the top of his head, and those antennae will be sticking up. Now I'll add the little pom-pom on top of his pink party hat. I guess it's a he. It could be a she. I don't know. And then add a few dots of glue. You don't need very much, right along the top of his head in order to add the party hat. Here's our cute little finished alien. He is super adorable. Next, we have the pieces for the UFO, and I cut this top part, the dome here, out of white cardstock because I'm actually going to ink blend on it in blue in order to give it the look of glass. You also could use an alcohol ink marker to do this, or just cut it out of a light blue cardstock. But I like the look of using the tumbled glass Distress Oxide. I'm just bringing it in around from the edges all the way along the top and down in towards the center. This gives it a really nice 3D look and makes it look like a glass dome. You don't need very much ink to accomplish this at all. Now we can go ahead and put all of the pieces together. This is the order from top to bottom, but I'm going to go a little out of order. I'm adding glue all the way along the back of the purple piece, and then this will line up on those edges of the main UFO piece. I used a brushed metallic silver cardstock here, which I think looks super cool for the UFO, if I do say so myself. The only downside to using this metallic cardstock is that it does take a little bit longer for the die cut to dry on there, so I'm just going to hold it in place for a moment while it dries. Next, I'm going to take the dome we created, and this will glue right inside the inset area of the spaceship. So I'll add some glue right along there, and then I can tuck the dome right in there and fit perfectly. It is kind of scary to cut this little alien, but I did warn you, I'm going to cut off the bottom of him because his head is just going to be peeking out from the rim of the spaceship. So it looks like he's actually sitting inside of the spaceship. I'll add some glue to the back and then pop him right in there along the purple edge. I did cut a second of the silver rim from white cardstock because I want to build that up a little bit. I could also use some really thin foam tape, but that seems like more work than I need, so I just used an extra die cut, and then I can glue that right over the top of the little alien. It'll pop up a little bit in the center, but I'm not worried about that. And that is what helps to create the look of him being inside the actual UFO. So I'm dotting glue right along the edge, and I'll pop that piece right over the top. These pieces cut out with one die, and they're going to create the little lights along the rim of the UFO. So I'll just put some glue over the embossed details that are on the cardstock. It's a little hard to see on camera, but you can see them in real life. Then I'll take each one of the lights out of the piece that I die cut from, and I will pop them right over and glue those down. It's starting to really come together now. There's this little topper piece for the UFO. You know, you could use it or not. I think it adds a nice little detail on there. So I add some glue to the smaller side and then glue it to the back of the UFO so it sticks up. And now all we have left is this piece here, which looks like light shining down from the UFO. I cut this from vellum, and we'll put everything together. I've got my one light here. These are really fun. There's 2 in a package. It comes with 2 lights and 2 batteries. The lights just break in half just like that. They're really easy to snap apart. And then I'll pop out one of the batteries. You want to look for the plus symbol on there and the plus symbol on your light pack and slide it in until it stops. Now that it's all in, you can press the switch and you'll see it's going to light up the light just like that. So you want to figure out where you want to place this, but start first by putting some double-sided tape on the back. And there are a couple of different ways to use these lights. I'm going to show you a completely different way with the second card. But for this one, I wanted it to be underneath the UFO. So I've added my tape and I'm sticking it right back underneath the UFO. And now I'll add some double-sided tape all the way around the back of the UFO. Here's my green cardstock. Remember I said I was going to make the bottom look like grass. So I just used a grass die that was in my stash. If you don't have one, you could just cut this straight across. You don't actually need that little fringe detail, but I do think it looks kind of fun. So I've cut it so that it'll go right along that beautiful horizon line that we created with the seedless preserves, and then I've glued it there. Now I can remove the release tape off of my foam tape and place the whole thing down in the center of the card so that that vellum is overlapping the grass. For the interactive element, I'm using the Push Here stamp from this Lawn Fawn set. It has lots of different interactive stamps that you can use for your different cards, which is nice. So I'll stamp this out and then I'm just going to die cut it with a small circle die from my stash. I've added some glue on the back and then I can pop that right over where the button's going to be. For my greeting, I'm using the Space Greeting set. Lots of different combos. You have small word dies as well as the shadow. So you could do Happy Birthday, you could do Greetings Earthling, you can do Love You to the Moon and Back, and then you could also mix those up however you want. So I've put some more super sticky double-sided tape on the back of this and I'm attaching it to my card base. I've lined it up at the top there and now I can remove the rest of the release tape and secure down the entire card front. And off camera, I cut out Happy Birthday Earthling from the sentiment set to finish off the card. It's a little hard to see on camera, but that does put that light down right underneath his UFO, which looks really cute, like he's beaming up his sentiment. For our space background, I'm using the To the Moon dies. This creates an awesome spaceship as well as this fun double layered moon. There's a shooting star as well as some extra stars. Lots of different options with this set as well, and it also works really well with the UFO set. So you could combine different elements of these sets together. So I've got our rocket here. Again, this one I cut in the Brush Metallic cardstock because I thought it would be fun. Adding glue to where the embossed details are on that die cut. And then I'm bringing in the riveting. It's like the banding that would go across the spaceship. And there's lots of little tiny pieces you have to poke out of those. I did that off camera, but it allows for the piece underneath to peek through, so it looks like tiny little rivets going all the way along there. Next, I'll add the tip of the rocket ship on the top. I'm doing this in blue, and then I'll add the bottom fins or fenders, I don't know what you would call them. There is an embossed detail for the center one, so I'll add that first and just place it right over the top. And the side ones, there is an embossed detail on them so you can see how far it should be tucked underneath the side of the rocket. So I'll tuck those under each side just below where that bottom band line is with the rivets, and those work really well there. Super easy to do. For the base where our flames are going to shoot out, I'm going to add some glue right along the top of the exhaust, I guess, piece, and I've done that in black as well, and then I'll just put it underneath the rocket ship. For the flames, there are two die cuts here that you can cut out. I've done the larger one in yellow and a smaller one in orange, and then I've just added glue to that embossed detail. Spellbinders does a really good job of adding little embossed details on the die cuts so you can see exactly where the next piece is supposed to go. I love that. Adding some glue right along the edge of that, and I'm going to glue it underneath so it looks like that is coming out. For the window, there are two different pieces and they're both circles. The smaller circle has a little kind of accent or highlight spot that you want to poke out, and I am going to color this with some B0.3 in Olo marker. You could use, you know, tumbled glass again like we did for the first card, or you could use colored cardstock. And now I'll glue that to the center of the black piece, but I kept the little white highlight and I'm going to glue that right back in there. This is what helps to make it look like an actual window. I feel like that having that nice little white accent there just looks so nice. And then I'll add glue back behind the circle of the window cutout on the spaceship, and I will place that window from the back so that it's popping out from the back to the front, so that way we don't lose those little embossed kind of rivet details that are going around the window. You can see there's our rocket ship. It looks so cute once it's all put together. For our moon, I'm adding glue on the back of the top layer. I chose to go with white and gray here. I think it looks really nice, but you could do a double layer in white. You could do those in yellow. For this card, I'm actually going to put our light piece back behind the background because I want just where the light is to peek out so that it is making it look like the rocket ship is blasting off. So I've got to figure out first here where I want everything to be on the card. So figure out your placement. I did cut out Love You to the Moon and back and got those ready to go. I'll lay those out as well. I figured it all out, and now I'm going to start by gluing the elements that I'm going to have directly on the background. So this is the shooting star as well as the other small stars. And for the items I want to pop up, I'll add foam tape. I did that with the moon, and I'm going to pull off my sentiments here. Those are going to be the last thing that goes on, but I do want to go ahead and get my rocket ship exactly where I want it so I can ensure that light comes out right in the right spot. Now I'll use just a little pokey tool here that I have and kind of stick it back behind there and then just poke a hole right through the background so that I can have a frame of reference for where I'm going to actually pop out a hole using my hole punch. You could use a small die if you don't have a hole punch as well. So I'm going to add a little bit of double-sided tape here on the light up element, and then I can tape it right back behind there so that the tiny little light portion that's on that pack is going to peek right out of the hole. It'll be absolutely perfect when we're done. So I'll add some foam tape to the back of my rocket now, remove the release tape. I did not put any foam tape underneath those flames because again, I want those to be nice and lit up. And then I'm just paying attention to where I'm placing my rocket down. Look at that. That looks so cool. I was doing a little bit of a happy dance once I actually put that down. I'm sure you guys can relate. So now I flip the whole piece over and I'm going to put some foam tape to support everything and make it level. I did switch to a slightly thicker foam tape. And now I will pop my sentiment on. That's the last step here, as well as another push here interactive element that I put together off camera. So I'll put this right over the center fin, and that's going to work perfectly for the button. I'll remove the release tape, add another piece of double-sided tape to the back of the light up element so that way we don't risk it moving around at all. And I'll use my score tool to help line that up. So here's the finished second card, this one with the space background. Oh, and I'll bring back in the first one. You can see how different the two of them look, but how fun they both are and how well these light up elements work with these types of cards. All right, guys, I hope you picked up some tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue to bring you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.